Where did you come from? Or where did you come from? Ever get those questions? This is how you answer that question. Genealogy. What is it? How and why do you do it? And what do you do with it? These are the questions we will discuss today. Make no mistake, I'm not an expert, so you may know more about this than I do. I'm going to share my experience and knowledge to facilitate the discussion around the answers to those basic questions. This view is probably what you think of as a family tree. It's the pedigree view of my tree, as displayed in the Legacy 8 software package. There are many software packages and cloud-based websites, some free, to help organize your information. This is a local computer software application, around $80, that runs on my computer. All of the family tree software products have similar views and support the concepts I'll be presenting. This is as much about genealogy as a hobby as it is about this particular software package. You'll quickly understand why software designed for genealogy is well worth the time to learn and the effort to use it effectively. This view is based on a strict father-mother-child relationship. Each member is a bloodline DNA contributor to the later generations. I am the focus of this view, and it includes my father, Harry Ezra Gallagher, and mother, Etta Emlyn Tucker, their fathers and mothers, and continues out in both directions based on the single relationship, parents-child. It's obvious that there are levels below me, as well as additional levels beyond the 5 generations displayed for many of the family threads. If we drill left, it puts my daughter, Laura Christie, in the driver's seat and brings my wife, Barbara, and her family into view as they contributed to her DNA. If we go to the right to older generations, it shifts the tree one level to the right and now extends out to Ephraim D. Van Arsdale, the 7th generation. My family branch has dropped from the view as it's not relevant to Barbara, now the driver. We could navigate the whole tree through this view, but not very efficiently. Let's make William Fleming Fanning the center of attention by selecting his bookmark at the bottom of the diagram. When you go to check in after checking out and have to answer the question, what have you done, or what have you done, you'll need a different set of facts. If we select the Descendant tab, we get a different perspective or diagram based on William. Now we see William and his first wife, Margaret, and their kids, as well as his second wife, Julia, and their kids. Again, all of the various software packages support these kinds of views. All of these views, diagrams, and tables are very flexible and user-configurable in the legacy system. You can easily change the columns and number of generations. So if we increase the depth of the view to 3 generations through the Options button, we'll add their children's spouses as well as their grandchildren. So now we have the aunts, uncles, and cousins in the mix, which you didn't see with the pedigree view. You can easily open all the levels and create a very large list. I have 2,400 members in my tree so far. So where did all this information come from, and how did it get organized? That's what we're really here to discuss. Let's look at the real data core of family trees, the core or nuclear family. This is the primary framework for the larger family tree. There are 4 basic foundational concepts for genealogy understanding and documentation. The first is the family unit. It is how each member of the family tree will be identified and how the relationships across generations and centuries is defined. We see William's family unit is defined as the father, William Fleming Fanning, and a mother, Margaret Elizabeth Reed. It also includes their respective parents and their children. Pretty basic, but the key to the structure and framework in documentation and in research. These are blood birth parents. Everyone has one of each. Options and alternatives are included or being added for other types of relationships like adopted, LGBT, etc. Remember, we saw that William was married twice and had children with both wives. The children are listed for Margaret and Julia, which include a half preceding the name. I can select the spouse icon indicating 2 wives for William, select Julia, which will move Julia into the wife box, and hide Margaret and swap the half indicators. As you scroll across the other tool icons in the husband box, you'll see one Parents, Siblings, which list William's brothers and sisters who are included in William's father's family unit, 1 level up, Sources, where your official documentation goes, AKA, where you record your names by which they were known, other names, addresses associated with this particular person, a to-do list, and a research guidance icon. These will be covered in Genealogy 102, Advanced Functions of Legacy 8.0, along with reporting functions. You'll notice that Julia has a like set of data elements, as does Margaret, now in hiding. The second concept or element of the framework is the life event chronology. Our objective is to understand, define, and document the significant events of each family member and those of the family unit. These life events each include 3 critical data elements which, when sequenced and understood as a life story, help us understand what that person and family has experienced, or perhaps why they were who they were or did what they did. These chronological event elements are: event name. What happened of significance or interest? This would include birth, school graduations, military service, marriage, childbirth, job changes, relocations, real estate purchases, divorces, honors bestowed, etc., etc., and will end in death. There are several events included in the core view: the birth, death, and burial of the primary parents, the inferred birth and death of their parents and their children, as well as their marriage. The second element is the event date. When did the event occur? You can't sequence and relate events without knowing when they happened in relation to each other, and larger world events that may have had impacts and consequences on the family. Each of the events displayed include the dates. And finally, location. Where did it happen? This is critical for 2 reasons. Where may have a bearing on the event, died in New Orleans, during Hurricane Katrina. And additional research to fully define and understand the event will generally be focused based on the location. County of event is most critical for research involving government documents related to birth, marriage, death, property records, military records, etc. While the year of the parent and child birth and death events is included, to see the date or location, you'll need to select them to move them into the primary parent's box. The last topic is validation and documentation. To ensure the correctness of the information included, it is important to substantiate as much as possible. When we start to look at the government records related to birth certificates, marriage licenses, draft registrations, census reports, obituaries, and yes, even headstones, you will find many inconsistencies in names, dates, locations, and even family members. The validation records will simply prove that it was recorded and did happen, but may not have been documented as clearly as you would hope. The last and largest concept in terms of complexity and the time consumption is the research processes. This is the process by which you gather the data and information to accomplish the first 3 concepts and elements. When you start to build your tree, regardless of software package, it will be empty. These packages don't come with your tree assembled, although you can pay someone to build your tree. That sounds like fun part-time work. As available data and the web have provided a constantly changing environment in which to pursue your family story, this will be an ever-changing area with many categories and approaches. We will cover some basic and most available and helpful categories as part of this discussion. So how is the data organized? Before we dive into the details of the logical and initial starting point, your immediate family, I want to discuss the basic approach and show you the basic navigation between the family tree elements and the data and validation sources. This is the result of the research process and will help you understand what you are trying to find out and relate in order to create the family story. Keep in mind that each person has a story, each family unit has an interrelated story, and each family leg or thread has a story, all interrelated based on the data you find and add and how it is entered. Most of the output or reporting on your family tree is handled by the software package based on reports, views, and web page creations, but is all based on your data organization within your tree. The time spent understanding this early in the development process is more than offset by the time spent correcting and updating the data when you figure out how to communicate and display your family's stories. You're much better off fully developing your immediate family through the reporting functions before starting to expand your family tree levels than focusing on getting 500 to 3,000 family members configured without consistent data elements to facilitate the communications requirements. So now we'll dive into the details and talk about where it comes from and where it goes. Let's choose the Index tab. With 2,400 members and Johnsons in 2 of 3 families, this is the only way to quickly jump between branches. We'll go to the Ruth Arms family to continue. Select the Family tab. We'll open the Notes icon for Ruth Arms. I use the General tab as a search tracking chronology to keep simple track of what I know, what I have, and what I need in terms of data. I'm missing a date and documentation on her divorce, although it's confirmed in the 1920 census. In the Research tab, I add notes for investigation or tracking discrepancies or questions. We can open the marriage event log or simply click on the marriage box. Here we add events that involve the family, like the U.S. Census information. These started in 1790 and run every 10 years. 1890 census was lost in a fire. The 1950 census and later has not been released. Before 1850, they are very strange and appear to be an inventory of family members and slaves. These census reports are critical for tracking the family over the last 200 years. They are available from several sites and are generally free. The functionality associated with the raw paper form is very different site to site, but most actually drill all the way down to the actual form. The 13 to 34 columns of information included changed for every census. If you select the 1910 census record, you'll see what was recorded in the census for Joshua and Ruth Johnson. Joshua and Rui were in Columbus, Ohio, with their 2 children. Ages in relationship to the head of the house are included since 1850. Notice the family record indicates that 3 children had already been born by 1910. We'll look at the media gallery in my father's record. We open the media gallery through the picture icon and see a set of pictures from baby to just months before his death at age 45. If we scroll down, you'll also see a picture of the graveside headstone and a link to his findagrave.com record. See an earlier YouTube for details on that. You can add links to any other websites. You'll also see a copy of his birth certificate, which finitely ties him to his parents. You'll notice that his father, Louis Daniel, is listed as LD, one of those AKAs. The AKAs are more important in some systems. For instance, when you add the AKA LD in Ancestry, that system searches for relevant information in all systems with both Louis Daniel and LD combinations. Notice that Mom was married 3 times, so if we look at the Chronology tab for her record, not only is Harry listed, but it picks up J.D. Cunningham and Edward McLaughlin marriages. The system weaves together all the life events from the individual's perspective. This looks like a more formal version of my early planning and tracking in the notes section. Again, the flexibility of the tool for display and reporting is mind-boggling. We haven't looked at the menu items related to charting, reporting, creating web pages, internet search assistance, etc. Those topics will be covered in Genealogy 102, Advanced Functions of Legacy 8.0. I hope you found this informative and of value. I'll be moving on to other topics, but continue to learn about the Legacy 8 package as I use it. If you have specific questions, drop me a note and I'll answer it if I have gotten to that function already. With so many topics to cover, I doubt I'll update these with additional info or new version updates. I don't update until I have to, as I'd rather be investigating my family, not how to use software again. Thank you, and good luck.